So on the 1st of January, this is a great passage to read. I love it, first of all, because it's a great testimony about who Jesus is. John talks about how Jesus is different from every other person and every other religious teacher and everyone else on the planet, because Jesus is from heaven originally. Now, we are all in a place where we are, if we're following Jesus, where we're going to heaven, but Jesus comes from heaven. And so the words that he speaks and the authority that he has is authority above everybody else because of where he's from. He's distinct from us in that. And moreover, John talks about how the Father loves the Son and how the Father gives to the Son the Holy Spirit without limit. And Jesus is the one who is full of authority because of where he comes from. He's also full of the Spirit, and he's also full of the love of the Father. There's this unique bond between Jesus, God the Son, and the Father, and also the Holy Spirit is wrapped up in that. And it testifies to Jesus, this passage, but it also is a great kind of motto for 2015. Elsewhere, Jesus speaks of John the Baptist, and he calls him the greatest person who has ever lived. And John's motto is this thing from verse 30. He must become greater, I must become less. Jesus must become greater, and I must become less. One of my favourite definitions of humility is it's thinking of yourself as God thinks of you. And what I like about that is that means we don't just do ourselves down and think of ourselves as just these little worms. God doesn't think of us like that. He thinks of us as incredibly special. He died for us. And at the same time, thinking of ourselves as God thinks of us means that we don't think of ourselves as the centre of the universe, because that's not what God thinks we are. He is the centre of the universe, and we serve his will. And to have this motto of he must become greater and I must become less, and to set our sights on that with the goal of our lives. What it leads to in practice is I want to surrender my life every single day to your lordship, to your direction, to the things that you're telling me to do, that I might be obedient to those things, that you might become greater in my life. And one person once talked about a prime minister, British prime minister from back in the day. And he said, it was called Harold Wilson. He said, it was said of Harold Wilson that if you stuck a nail in his back, it would come out a corkscrew, because everything he said, he put a spin on. Everything he said, he put a twist on. And sometimes I feel a little bit like that with me and the Lord. I feel like he pours him into me, and then it comes out sort of twisted with too much of my own agenda mixed up in it. And part of the goal of my life, as for all of us, should be to surrender to him, that I might yield my will, that he would become greater, that I would become less. And as that happens, ironically, that's how we become more significant in God's kingdom, because we become more open and available for him to use us. Have that as a prayer today and for this year. Lord, this year, would you become greater? Would I become less?